In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, Christ is in our midst. Yeah, you made me laugh for the first time. First of all, thank you for being here, because I know that this particular Sunday, out of all the Sundays of the year, is the most painful to get up, because you lose that hour of sleep, and many times we don't set our clocks or we forget, and the only thing that sets itself is our phone. But thank you for being here, and especially for the kids. I know it's harder to get up just a little bit earlier and to be here. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about iconography and why we have this Sunday of Orthodoxy. Why do we have this celebration of the icons in the church? Now, a lot of our fellow Christian denominations are always asking us, what's the deal with the icons? Why do you have pictures up, or why do we have stained glass windows? And isn't that against what the commandments say about having a graven image of God? Are we not supposed to have that? And you'll see that in many contemporary Christian churches, non-denominational and the like, that there's no pictures, no icons, no art, and maybe just a simple cross up in the front of the church, but that's it. And our churches in the Orthodox tradition are covered with iconography. Now, in this particular church, there's a lot of scroll work and there's a lot of design, more so than icons. And probably the immensity of the church and the size and the time when the church was built, and finding an iconographer, from what I understand, was a difficult thing to do. And it's really difficult as well to find an iconographer that can write an icon that is appropriate and correct in the many teachings that come through the different icons. For example, the icon of St. John the Baptist, we'll see that St. John the Baptist in his icons will always have here in the tree, there's an axe in the tree. There should always be an axe in the tree, because St. John says that God is coming, and if we don't produce fruit, he's going to chop us down and burn us in the fire. So St. John, if you look in the icon of the baptism of an Orthodox Byzantine icon of the baptism of Christ, you'll see the axe in a tree just off to the side by itself, just speaking to us. So why iconography? Well, iconography came from the Byzantine period, but it was a time when we could learn something about the saints and learn something about the history of the church without having to read, without having to know how to read. Now, we take it for granted that we can read. You can't have a driver's license unless you can read. You can't graduate high school unless you can read. Many times, just functioning in daily life, not being able to read the language of the country that you're in is very difficult. But during the time of Christ and before and after, literacy was something that was only reserved for men, number one, and only reserved for those who had some type of wealth. So in other words, a lot of people didn't go to school. They didn't know how to read. They didn't learn to read ever. So what's the best way to teach someone a story? Is by artwork. We see that even from the ancient Egyptians, even the ancient Greeks. We see that artwork and how it was drawn on the walls of caves, and how statues were made, and they were showing victories in war, because a lot of their history was about conquest and about survival. But then we see, as Christ comes, people are writing icons to remind us of these stories and to remind us of the people in these stories, so that we don't forget. So that even if we were uneducated, even if we couldn't read, we could look at an icon and realize the scene and feel something as we see that scene. But what happened? Why do we celebrate it today? Is because there was abuses. With everything in life, there is use and there is abuse. And sometimes when things are abused so much, they fall into disuse. So if we look at the history of iconography in the church, there was icons that were being written, and then the opposite side was the abuse of that. What could be an abuse of an icon? Well, people thought the icons were so holy and so important that they were actually chipping the paint off and eating it, and swallowing the icons as some type of blessing, some type of divine holiness that was going to come through icons. Other people were so offended that there was actual pictures of God and the Virgin Mary that they were burning them. And there was these opposite sides. And we see that in the Roman tradition that there was a time where artwork was two-dimensional, as we have here in the church, and then it became three-dimensional, as we see in the Roman Empire. It kind of went side by side with the Byzantine Empire, and then we see that Roman culture still continued with statues. That's why in many of the Roman Catholic churches, you will see that statues are still in the church, but they also have, in many of them, they also have icons as well. Many times you'll see an icon similar to the one of the Virgin Mary up in the apse of the church. The apse of the church is the top part on the behind me, way up behind me. But we see that there's that combination there, but we don't see statues in our tradition. We just don't see them. We see them in Greece. You'll see statues in Greece all over the place. You'll see from warriors of ancient times to modern times, to people who were significant in the revolution of Greece, as well as historic religious figures in the church, but not saints. We don't see the saints depicted in three-dimensional form. We see them within the churches. So there was this fighting going back and forth in the early days of the church, and around the 7th, 8th century and building up to that point. And then we see that icons were taken out, and there was this confusion of what was going to happen. So finally, through the councils of the church, they came together and said, we understand that iconography is the appropriate thing to have in the church. It's a tool for us. It's a way of focusing for us. And today we will do the procession, and we'll read that confession of faith that hopefully you got that little half sheet of paper as you came into the church. And we'll read that, and that says specifically what we believe, what we understand icons to be. But the question that I know that you'll get from your friends who may be other denominations is, why do you have icons? What's the point? Isn't it worshiping an image? And the easiest answer that I've come up with through the years is just to remind people that they have pictures in their home. You have pictures of vacations, you have pictures of, some of you, I've seen your homes or your garages, you even have pictures of old vehicles that you used to own, or a motorcycle, or whatever the thing is, and we have pictures of our grandparents or our parents or friends. We have pictures when we're on vacation, standing in front of water, doing selfies all over the place. We have those as reminders for what happened in that event. Does it replace that event? No. Does it mean that we worship that picture and we say that that picture is Florida? That's the beach in Florida. And if I touch the picture, I'm going to be in Florida. No, it doesn't mean that. But how many of us, when we have longed in our heart for someone, whether it's a deceased family member, whether it's a loved one that is still with us, and we are away, how many soldiers through the years and through the decades have taken a picture of their wife and been in war and picked up that picture and gave it a kiss? Not worshiping the picture, not thinking the picture is his wife as he's in the trenches of war, but as an expression of the reverence for and the love for the person that we are venerating in that picture. That's the same concept that we have for iconography. We, we will read later, understand that we worship God, and we use these tools to help us focus too. Many times when we're praying, focus is a difficult thing. Even in church, focus is difficult. In fact, I hear the fans all the time. You know, during the week when I'm here by myself and I'm walking to the office, I hear the fans on the side, and I don't know how you can sit on the side of the church and hear like the whole time. It's this giant noise of fans. So if you can pray over that, you're already ahead of the game, because you can focus beyond distraction. But when we are called to pray sometimes, when we might be awaiting results of a test, or be in a hospital or a doctor's visit or be experiencing bad news, we might pull out an icon just to help us focus and to help us think and to reflect on God by seeing that picture and bringing our thoughts focused to Him. That's why in the church, typically in the traditional Orthodox layout of a church, there's iconography everywhere. So that no matter if you're a small child and you're looking up, you see an icon. If you're looking down, you look this way, you see an icon, you look that way. And many times we have this misconception in our minds because people say all the time, they're like, Father, I got a new icon and I'm going to put it in my house, but I don't have any more east walls to put it in my house. So what am I supposed to do? Because my bathroom door is there and people come up with all these scenarios. I'm like, just put it on a wall, anywhere, any wall. Because if you look in the church, we have icons on all the walls. We have them on the ceiling. We don't have them on the floor, but we have them on the ceiling. The only image that is on the floor, we have the double-headed eagle and the fish. But we will never have a cross on the floor. We will never have the image of a saint or Christ on the floor. We never walk on that image. But we have them all over as a reminder to us that no matter what direction we look, we are embraced by God and the saints. So keep that in mind in your homes with your icons. I know many of you have icons, and the way many house blessings I've done through the years, and I say, if you have icons, when I go into a room and I don't see an icon up, I'm like, do you have an icon in this room? They're like, sure, I have a lot of them. And they go, they pull the drawer open, right? And they're all stacked in there, and they start putting them out. Put them out in your homes, but put them out with dignity, with honor, and with purpose, so that everything in your home is appropriate, and it's not just thrown up on the side or laying in a drawer, but that everywhere you look in your home, that you can catch the eye of the saint, or you can catch the eye of Christ, so that you can focus and pray. And that's why we have this Sunday of Orthodoxy, this celebration of iconography, to help us, to guide us to pray, and to give us that focus so that in the midst of distraction, which we all have, we can always remember that Christ is in front of us. There's so many young children that say, Father, they come for confession, they say, Father, I have a problem with the computer, and I'm watching things on the computer that I shouldn't be watching, or doing things on the computer I shouldn't be doing. And I said, you know what the best way to fix that is? Tape an icon of the Virgin Mary on your computer screen. And when you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, and she's looking right at you, you'll think twice about it. And I encourage you to do that in your vehicles too, to have an icon either on your visor of your car or a cross hanging from your rear view mirror, so that when someone cuts you off and you're ready to wave to them, that you see your icon up there and you say, oh, what is Christ telling me? What am I supposed to do? So if we have those things in front of us, they help us and guide us. And children, many times I'll say, what do you do in school when someone's bad? And they say, well, sometimes I'll be bad with them, and I'll say negative things with them. And I said, what if I came with you to school with my vestments on, and I had the gospel, and I had the censer, and I had my hat on and everything, and just standing next to you all day sensing and walking with you, they're like, people would probably run away from me. And I said, what would you do? And they said, I would be on my best behavior, because I know that you would see it, and that you would probably tell my mom, and that you would complain to God about how bad I was. And I said, that's what we have to do all the time. Not just young children, but adults too. To remember that our guardian angel is walking with us, our patron saint. The Virgin Mary is watching over us, Christ over everyone, as we see in the dome. So don't forget, he's watching us. But we also have to watch him so that we don't get distracted by the things around us. Amen.